the Oklahoma City Thunder may have just set themselves up for the future without even realizing it 5 years ago, as there's been new rules and limitations put in place to limit teams from buying all these star-studded superstars out in the league and forming dynasties and super teams, whereas the Thunder may be the only team that don't have to follow by these rules, because the amount of draft capital they've built up, along with the price that some of their players that enter free agency will be worth due to their rookie deals right now. What up? It's Bryson Akins with Thunder Digest. Before we get all this though, I want to take a moment and say that if you guys are coming back to the channel and you find yourself enjoying this content, it would mean the world to me if you guys could subscribe. As you can see here, just over 20% of you guys coming back and watching the channel are subscribed. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy the content we put out here, it would mean the world to me if you guys hit that subscribe button. And it's the best way to support the channel. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and get into the video and talk about what I mean by the Thunder may be set up for the future. And I think we are. I've mentioned it before about the reason that we can have a long dynasty and a super team for years and years is because the amount of draft capital we have built up so far in previous trades. When you look at what we got from Russell Westbrook, and then also from the Los Angeles Clippers, some picks that we can use next year and the year after that as well. I think we have 4 first-round picks that for next NBA draft. We'll go into that in a deep dive for our draft picks in the next 2 years, as we have quite a few to use. But this is one of the reasons that we are probably set up for long-term success. When you look at the players that we already have locked down for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is also eligible for another max deal, I believe, in 2 years, which would be worth $80 million a year now, with salary caps having to rise because of all these insane contracts coming out here. If you want to be able to keep some of your players, of course, salary cap will rise. Teams will be able to spend more money. Right now, I believe it was $179 million this offseason. I believe we could probably see it upwards of $200 million in the next 2 to 3 years because of how much revenue the NBA and some teams are bringing in, along with how much some players are worth. But there's a recent new ruling in the CBA which kind of explains why the Thunder will be successful, as you can see right here. The new rules severely punish teams that breach the second apron, a new salary cap threshold. They not only have to sacrifice on possible sign-and trade scenarios, but will also have their drafting capacity severely limited. Teams can no longer aggregate contracts and trades and cannot onboard more money in contracts than they trade out. If teams have more than 2 players on a max contract and acquire a third, they'd be closing in on a dangerous territory cap-wise. The penalties get worse each year that a team is above their second apron, leaving them no choice other than to trim their roster. This means no team could build a dynasty with the same core, even if they draft and develop their superstars. So, as you can see there, this kind of shows you that if you want to keep a ton of your core players, like your, top 5 or 6, you might be limited and face some punishments because you're going into that second apron tax, which they're trying to limit. They're trying, like the CBA and the NBA are trying to limit teams from going into that second apron tax because they just really don't want to do that, and it forms super teams. It does. And so a lot of teams are going to have to look into that when they try to sign certain players or trade for some people on their team via sign and trade. So it's interesting to look at that. But I don't really think this will apply to the Thunder when you look at who our core 3 guys are, because it shows you can get 3 guys there, but you are pushing into a dangerous territory. When you see who our 3 guys are, okay, that we'll try to build around. Sure, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to take a large amount of that money, being worth $80 million per year. It will take a large portion out of that. But you also have to remember, Chet and J-Dub, coming off their last contracts, they will be restricted free agents, but they will be extended, and I guarantee you we'll give them the max, but it'll only be a max rookie extension, which we can offer them, I believe, for another 4 to 5 years is what they would be signed on board for, 4 or 5. I can't remember the exact number, but I guarantee you the max rookie extension is not going to be as much as people are going to realize. It's not going to be this astronomically large number. Sure, it's still going to be a large number, but it's not going to be $60, $50 million a year. It's not going to be worth that much at all, which is something that we got to look at for the future. And it also points the question at, okay, What about building like a bench and some guys that can, kind of play with Chet and Dub and SGA? Well, this is where the draft picks come in hand, and which is also mentioned by Bobby Marks, which is kind of, where we got all this here. He even said it. Let's say the Oklahoma City Thunder win a championship next year. But because they have so much draft equity, they can keep replenishing. I think you can pay Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander max money here, and maybe that core could be a dynasty here. And add players through the draft, through the lottery, and keep replenishing that. Keyword, add them through the lottery. And you're probably wondering, oh, Bryson, we're going to be, a playoff contending team every single year. So how can we keep, replenishing through the lottery? This is where all the draft picks that we have built up over the years come in handy. When you just look at our draft picks for the next 2 seasons here, 2025 and 2026, look how many we have. We could potentially package some of these in trades and get some more in later drafts, such as 27, 28, and 29, which I don't believe we have much in 2028. We have a few second-round draft picks, but we could definitely use some more first-round draft picks in the future, because we do have quite a bit. I believe it's 15 or 14 first-round draft picks in the next 6 years, I believe, which is nice. But majority of them are in these next 2 seasons. When you look at this right here, 2025, we have the potential to have 5 draft picks. If I'm reading this correctly here, we have our own, of course. We have Utah's. It's protected 1 through 10. They're probably going to get that back, so bring it back down to 4. Miami, they're going to be a playoff team, I believe, and so we could potentially get that one as well. Philadelphia, they should be a playoff team. It's only protected 1 through 6, so that we should have that one as well. It's probably going to be like the 23rd or 24th overall pick. Miami's would probably be like 16th or 17th would be my guess if they make the playoffs. And then this Houston or Clippers one, okay? OKC has the rights to swap its 2025 first-round pick for Houston's 2025 first-round pick, protected for selections 1 through 10. Now, they could be a playoff team, and it might be the better of the 2 picks, but the Clippers one is unprotected, all right? And so when you're reading it through here, it's a huge, long ordeal. It's hard to explain, but we'd be swapping our own for the better of Houston or the Clippers, whichever one falls in a better spot for us. And if LA plays like how it kind of looks out to be, with Kawhi always being injured and then Harden having to lead this team with just a bunch of role players around him, I would not be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. They make the play-in games, sure, but then they lose in the play-ins. They don't make the playoffs, and it becomes a lottery pick. And I wouldn't be surprised if somehow it bumps up to 10 or 11. I would not be surprised by that. We could definitely use that to add someone on this team, then package the 3 other picks, or probably just 2 when you're looking at Miami and Philadelphia, force another first-round draft pick or 2 later in years. And you look at it, we also have 2 second-round picks, Atlanta's, or Boston or Memphis's, no protections. Atlanta's protected 31 through 40. I had no clue you could protect a second-round pick, but going into some more about that. In 2026, we only have 1 first-round pick, which is probably a year we probably want to bolster up a little bit, either 2026 or 2027. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up trading for more first-rounders in 2026 and also 2027. But 3 second-rounders in 2026, you could package those 3 together alone for a first-round pick for a competing team, so you could still get role players. And with Presti's knowledge and experience that we've seen with him drafting, I'm not worried about what position we're in. I have faith in Presti when it comes to the draft. Very rarely does he ever draft someone that doesn't turn into a serviceable option. A lot of people want to point out some guys that haven't worked out in recent years. A lot of people want to point to Josh Giddey as someone that didn't work out. Josh Giddey is a great player, and he looked like he was going to fit in the OKC system when you look at what he did his first 2 years. Last season, though, was a clear example of like, okay, the path has changed because some of these guys have actually progressed better than what we've expected. And so Giddey doesn't really have a place on the team anymore. He's still a great player. It just no longer became a fit on the team. Now we ended up trading him for some value in return. We see this with a bunch of our guys that we've drafted. Steven Adams was a great example of that. Someone that we drafted and had instant impact success, even though we did have to trade James Harden. It was a great addition to the team. We look at some other guys that we drafted. We drafted 3 MVPs so far in Presti's time here, and Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. 2 of them won the MVPs on our team. The other one, James Harden, won it in Houston. But Presti has knowledge of drafting on his side. So I'm not really worried about where we end up in drafts. I don't care if we get lottery picks, late first rounders, middle first rounders, bunch of second rounders either. I know Presti is going to get value. He's also showing it lately in his recent draft as well with Dylan Jones and AJ Mitchell, who have been balling out in Summer League, by the way. AJ Mitchell looks like the second coming of Aaron Wiggins, even though Aaron Wiggins is only 23, 24 years old, something around there. So, like, it's just insane how much he hits on the draft. It's insane. So I'm not worried about where these picks end up that we have so many of. And this is the reason with the new CBA rules where we can just replenish our role players in depth with these guys. Because if our core three can just go out there and ball every single night, I'm not worried about who we have backing them up, because teams are going to be so focused on our three guys that you're going to leave some people open. And when they develop, sure, their first year, they might not be that good, but the second and third and fourth year that we have them, do not be surprised if we win those championships when those guys are older, along with Chet and Dub going into their fourth year. Next year, they do have a chance going into their third year. Their fourth year, it should be a championship. I am saying that right now, along with the role players that we'll have around them, because there's no guarantee we keep Caruso. He might walk after this. He might. You never know. You never know if we're going to re-sign him to another team-friendly deal. But there are going to be guys that are walking that we can replenish through the draft. And it's another situation with Topic as well. You know, he's replenishing what we lost in Josh Giddey. So it's just one of those things where Sam Presti sees that and goes, okay, these new rulings, I'm not worried about it because I've built up all this draft capital. We are now probably the most, not by terms of money, but trade value, the most expensive team in the NBA. Because if you want to win and get something of value, you have to go through the Thunder because we have almost everyone's draft pick. But that's all I got for this video. Let me know if you guys kind of agree or disagree with Bobby Marks, with him talking about how this doesn't really appeal with the Thunder, or kind of, I say appeal, on the same page as a Thunder because of the amount of draft capital we have. We don't have to worry about that second apron tax at all. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.